Hello, everyone, and welcome to another week of Record Live. Jared, how are we going?
We're doing great, Zanita. Winding down to the end of the year. We're doing a big cleanup at the office in Sydney today. So, yeah, things are going well.
Awesome. Well, we are having a fun conversation today. We are talking about music and worship music and what that means to us. What are some of the songs that we really enjoy? And this is something that is in the Bible quite a lot. Like there's a lot of passages where people will be shaking their, not maracas, they call them something specific.
Tambourines.
Tambourines, that's the word I'm looking for. They're shaking their tambourines, worshiping God. They're singing. We see it a lot in the Psalms, obviously. And so it's just an interesting thing. I think it's a real gift that God has given us because it's something quite it's not like prayer. It's not like reading the Bible. It's a bit more like fun and feelings kind of based. So I guess to start off, what is like your relationship with music? Do you sing a lot? Are you a musical person? Like, what is worship music to you?
Oh, prying out all my secrets, Zanita. Growing up, I sang at church quite a lot. We had, I would say I come from a musical family. My grandmother was a music teacher. My mother is a music teacher. All my aunties and uncles on that side, when I was growing up, played instruments, learnt different instruments. And so sometimes when we would get together for, say, Christmas, there would be a band, basically. There'd be a piano, a saxophone, a mouth organ, a trumpet, a flute, all sorts of different things, some guitars. It was always interesting in that sense. So yeah, growing up, I guess I really did like music. I had some interesting experiences, like when the primary school choir that I joined from quite a young age, because my mom was very involved with it. I really enjoyed, but by year 7, I was the only boy left. It became uncool, and so all the boys dropped out, and it was hard to be in there by myself, but it was also fun because I loved music and I wanted to be there. It was hard to be sort of a loner doing your own thing, forging your own path, but at the same time, I don't regret it. You got to stand up for what you enjoy, stand up for what you believe in. So yeah, music's always been around. It's always been part of my life. Unfortunately, I joke with people sometimes that I've probably quit more instruments than they've started learning. So I just had a problem with application and practice. So yeah, that was myself. How about you, Zanina? What's your relationship with music like?
Yeah, also come from quite a musical family, and also have tried many instruments. I think singing in church is a really cool thing because it's not very often. When you go to a concert and you're like, wow, this is so cool, everyone's singing the same song, but it's like, oh, we do that in church every week, and that's something that a lot of people don't experience. So I think that's awesome. But I think probably more so a few years ago, I was really struggling just with life in general. And I found it really hard to pray at that time. I found it really hard to read the Bible. I found it really hard to go to church and hear all these testimonies of how God was working in people's lives. But music was my saving grace in that period. I had this playlist of 20 worship songs, and probably a year I just listened to it on repeat every day because it was the only thing that would kind of give me that sense of connecting with God, or it would lift my spirits in a way. So I always think about that period because I'm like, man, if I didn't have music, don't know what I would have don't know what would have happened. Wow. But yeah, so I reckon that's probably where it gets more personal. But
it's interesting, Zanita, because in the church, people have often been quite passionate about music. So there's been the worship wars, people saying this kind of music's acceptable and this kind isn't. And often your church attendance or which church people go to might be defined purely on the music choices, because this church plays more upbeat style music. This church only sings hymns. And it's in some ways a shame that something that is so encouraging, uplifting, as you say, present through the Bible, the pages of the Psalms, etc., are basically songs. There's a lot of songs and praise represented in the Bible, and yet it's something that can polarize us and pull us apart when it's meant to bring us together. It's like a communal experience. As you said, singing together. Not a lot of communities in the current Western society, at least, share that experience of singing together on the regular like Christians do. Like Christians have maintained that tradition of gathering and singing songs together. But many people don't experience that. They don't get that. Maybe at a sporting event, they sing the national anthem or something like that. But it's not the same sort of communal tie that binds everyone, knows the songs, everyone's, in the same spirit, in the same attitude, worshiping together. So I think music really has a power, which is why I think people have been so sensitive about it over the years, because it really does have the power to move and to motivate and to change, or as you've described, like to encourage you and to keep you connected to the faith in difficult times. So yeah, we thought today we would share, there's a lot of different types of music. We thought we'd share some of our songs and some of the things they might mean to us specifically, but we'd love if you're watching along, comment, let us know your songs, what they mean to you. We'd love to hear what some of those are and what they mean, and share some of those thoughts as well. Zanita, do you want to go first? Do you want to, do you want to share something with us and just give us a window into something that you're listening to, you're enjoying?
Sure. Yeah, so we kind of had a bit of a structure when we were thinking about this. We decided we'd think of like our favorite hymn, our favorite Christmas song, and then 2 other random songs. So I'll start with the hymn because, let's just start there. But I was kind of tossing on, turning on 2 of these. The first one was This Is My Father's World, which I think is just an awesome song. But the second one that I think I'm going to talk about it's just like, and I actually wasn't sure if this is a hymn. I had to Google what defines a hymn, but it's I Love You, Lord, which was only written like 50 years ago or so. Do you know it?
I think so. I love you, Lord, and I lift my voice.
Really simple. Yeah. It's really simple, really short, really sweet, but I feel like it's quite relatable. So the lady who wrote it, she was going through a bit of a difficult period in her life. She was pretty hopeless, quite depressed. And I feel like her story is relatable because many people have found themselves in this situation where, like, they don't have a lot of money, they don't have a lot of friends. They're kind of just, like, working to make ends meet. And that's kind of, like, her story. And she was just kind of, like, really desiring to spend more time with God, but felt so drained and didn't know, like, what to offer him that would be of any like worth, kind of thing, because she's just like trying to get by. And she was trying to get her baby to sleep one day, and these words just kind of like came out of her mouth without her even really trying, and it was just like this like anthem that got her through this like difficult period. And I feel like when I sing it, or like when I hear it, it's like one of those songs that I don't just want to sing lightly. Like it feels like really, I guess it's like anytime that you say I love you, you don't just want to like throw it around. Like you really want to say it and like really mean it. You don't just want to flippantly kind of be like saying it to everyone or saying it when it's not like thought about. And so I guess it's just one of those songs that like it makes me like stop and think, and it makes me like be careful of what I say, and it like just reminds me that like even just the act of me coming and singing this 8-line song that is really simple and isn't anything like hugely profound is like still like a gift to the ear of the Lord. Like he still really loves that, and that's like something that he takes delight in. And so yeah, that's my favorite hymn.
Awesome. I love it. My favorite hymn. It's hard to choose, Zanita. Growing up, we used to sing a lot of hymns in my church, and we would sing modern choruses as well. But there were particular favorites. There were probably a handful, 5 or 6, that we sang a lot because they were my favorites or my dad's favorites. He would often lead the worship at church. Mum would often have to play, so she would pick songs that, you know, we had some input there. We would encourage her to choose certain songs. So it's actually really hard to narrow down. But my favorite hymn in recent years is Until Then. I think it's 632 in the hymn book, the SDA hymn book. And I just love it. As a writer, it's got a certain poetry about it. Just the visuals, the images. my heart singing as I pause to remember. A heartache here is but a stepping stone. It's just like very poetic, and it lifts in the chorus. And probably one of my favorite memories of the song, because I do love it. It's fairly short, and it's I enjoy singing it. But when we would do the lockdowns, we had a daughter at that time. We had a baby just when COVID lockdowns started. And the only way we could get Arwen to sleep was in the carrier. So I'd strap her to my front, I put her in, and often I would find myself singing to her just to calm her down, to walk around the balcony, sing some songs, or walk around the house in the dark, sing some songs, and it would often help her to sleep. And there were a couple of songs I had on repeat just because I knew most of the lyrics, and it was not awkward like those bits you don't know and whatnot. But almost without fail, I could sing 2 or 3 different songs, and I would sing that song and she would go to sleep every time I sang it. And I was just like, wow, this song has a lot of power. So I would time it, I would stagger it, like I'll sing certain songs and then I'll sing that song, because it has really this hope. For me, it's about looking to the future, and no matter how difficult life can get here, like we look ahead, and it's just this until then, if we can just hold on, if we can just get through what's happening now, we have this amazing thing waiting for us. My eyes will behold that city on the day that God calls me home. It's just a really nice, fairly simple song that I've always really liked, but especially in recent years since COVID, it's really meant a lot to myself, and hopefully my kids one day. I can remind them, hey, I used to sing this to you to get you to sleep. You used to really like this song.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So good. Yeah, I feel like we all had those songs our parents would use that would just work. Like, I don't know. But I think it I guess it kind of ties with my next song, which is more of a modern contemporary song. But it's also called Home by Jeremy Riddle. And it's, I guess, about this idea that we are constantly like searching for things to feel this sense of like home. Like we're constantly searching for safety, we're constantly searching for love, and oftentimes we like look for these things in things that like don't satisfy and disappoint us. And so this song is just the reminder that like not only is God like preparing a home for us, but a lot of the things that we are, I guess, seeking for in that can be found in him. And so it's just like a reminder to like turn back to that. And it's like I guess it's like a hopeful song of like, yeah, we have another home, and like we can find these things in him. Yeah.
That hope, like, I think it's a particularly Adventist thing. A lot of my favorite songs and hymns growing up especially had that hopeful element. I've been singing The Roll Is Called Up Yonder to my kids recently, and they've started picking up the chorus because it's quite lively, it's upbeat, so it's fun to sing along. And my kids, they're 4 and almost 2, and they're singing along the I think my daughter was saying the other day, it was almost like walls instead of roll. She was saying when the walls is called up yonder. But it's like they're knowing the tune, they're knowing the words already, and they're having that sort of Adventist hope. The classic it's left my mind. What's the song we all sing? The very Adventist. My hope is built on nothing less,
Yeah.
They're quite popular in our community, these hope-filled looking forward to the kingdom. But I guess at the same time, like, while I love the songs that talk about the hope that we have and the future coming, a couple of the worship songs that I'm really getting a lot out of at the moment, it's because of the lyrics, and they really speak to things that are now. So it's not just about all the singing about the sweet by and by, thinking about the future. It's about now. And one of those songs is called Made for More. And the other one is called The Adoption Song by Brandon Lake. Brandon Lake's quite popular at the moment. He's making a lot of worship music, but I find some of the lyrics in his songs just hit me. Like, you're listening to the song and like the words come out. The Adoption Song starts like this. I'll just share this lyric with you. I renounce the lie that I don't measure up. I renounce the lie that I'm unworthy of your love. And when shame comes knocking and fear starts talking, I will lift my hands in your presence. You remind me of who I am. And then the chorus starts, I am adopted. I am beloved. It's my inheritance. I'm a child of God. And I don't know about you, Zanita, but in my life, I've wrestled a lot with my own sort of that fear of inadequacy, the fear of rejection. Like, I don't actually measure up. I don't mean enough. And I have this rational, logical side that tells me, I know God loves me. He made me. He values me. Other people value me. I have good family. I have good friends. Some of these are irrational thoughts. They're lies that the devil uses to oppress us or to confuse us and push us down. And I just love that song, those lyrics in particular, speak to the now, and they speak to my struggles sometimes in actually understanding my own self-worth in God's eyes. And so just the depth of those lyrics, there was a time some years ago, there used to be a lot of cynicism, and I grew up more conservative. So it was like, hymns are great because they have depth of meaning and they have depth of lyrics. And modern worship songs are just repetitive. You sing the bridge 16 times, it's just to put you in a trance. The beat and the trance is just to like hypnotize you, and the devil will steal your soul, sort of thing. We heard all this sort of stuff growing up, but I think there was a patch, and there are some worship songs, modern worship songs, and even hymns that have that repetitive function, that call and response sort of thing. But some of the modern worship songs I find that are coming out at the moment are really have a depth of sort of thought and lyric behind them that really speak to our current experience and really speak to the things that we wrestle with as human beings. And it's almost like when you're singing those songs, singing along or listening to those songs, it's really encouraging that they remind you of your value, that they speak to issues that you might be struggling with, wrestling with right now, and that they give you that hope into that space. And I do think I've seen a shift in that to become much more meaningful and much deeper. They're modern day hymns. It's sometime in the future, 10, 15 years, 20 years down the track, we might be seeing some of these lyrics and really realizing that these are the hymns of our time, that have grown and developed in that space.
Yeah. I think a lot of the songs that I were on my like playlist that I was talking about, or a lot of the songs that I've resonated with when I'm struggling, actually also speak about like the doubt and the struggle. It's not just like a full like praise, I love you, like you're magnificent, you're all right. It's like you can hear the struggle in the lyrics and you can like relate with it as well, which I've at least found really helpful. I've also found the songs really helpful that are like, the gospel choir songs that are like joyful, they're jubilant, they're fun, like but just in different periods, I suppose.
Oh, happy day.
So good.
I think that's important, Zanita, because the Psalms, I took a worship on this at work the other week about the lamenting, the idea of lamentation, it's very biblical. It's very filled. These Psalms are inundated with these laments, and often there's praise at the end, or the writer turns the corner and realizes where God is involved. But sometimes we have to wrestle with life to really appreciate how God can raise us above that level of brokenness and difficulty and sin that we fall into. So Zanita, do you have your next song? Do you want to share another song with us? Tell us.
Difficult to choose. Yes, I think there's a song that I don't actually love the musical element of the song. Like, it's not one of those ones. And while I was like trying to think of the songs I was choosing, a lot of them I was like, do I love this for like the rhythm and the sound and the melody, or do I really like love the words? And so I've tried to pick ones where the lyrics really resonate. But this one is called Same God by Elevation Worship. And it kind of goes off like a few verses. It goes off a verse in Malachi chapter 3 that says the Lord does not change. And then the classic Hebrews 13 one that says Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and forever. which it's basically just like, I feel like often we'll look at the Old Testament, we'll look at the New Testament, we'll look at the crazy miracles that like Jesus and God performed, and we'll kind of ask ourselves like, why do we not like see that these days? Or like, why does it feel like he doesn't answer me? Or like, if he could perform all those miracles then, like, why can't he do it now? But I guess it's just a reminder that like the God that we believe in today is the same God of the Old Testament and the New Testament. Like, and he is still like working miracles, and like he is still with us, and like he is still as faithful as he ever has been. And so I think it's just like the lyrics are really powerful in that, because I think that's probably like a real common doubt that people have is like, did he really do that? Like, because why aren't we seeing that today? But yeah, and it's challenging, but I think it's like really uplifting as well. It's like a 11-minute song. So it really rides that message home, but it's powerful. It's really good. Someone actually sent that to me because they really resonate with the lyrics too. So yeah, it's good.
Whoops, muted myself. I love how you can share songs with other people. Like it's a really powerful way. It's like, wow, something to this spoke to me, but I'm thinking of someone who might also really like this. It's so easy these days to just send a link or send them somewhere that they can watch the song back. We talked about hymns and worship songs. I'm thinking of choruses, and the one I want to share, I was wrestling. There's a couple. I have little kids at home now, so we're trying to do family worship, and the ones that are interactive and fun, we're trying to teach them songs from our childhood that might, resonate. I have decided to follow Jesus as one that is good fun. I think it's got a really great message, like in song, it's simple words, simple thought, but it's like, I'm going to make a commitment. It's almost like Joshua saying, me and my house, we're going to stand for the Lord. It's just a song that does that encapsulates that. The other one I like is Jesus Savior Pilot Me. It's just fun. And I like the Jasper seed, just the word picture. Like Jasper's never a color description that we get to use in life. But in that old song, there's a little,
comes out.
Back to the Jasper Sea. What about you, Zanita? Choruses, action songs, fun songs from growing up that you remember?
Probably Pharaoh is the one that comes to mind.
Yes.
Pharaoh, but like, but yeah, I just remember there being like, when I grew up, there was a massive divide over what we thought the lyrics actually said, where it was like, whether it was Pharaoh, oh baby, or Pharaoh, obey me. I always thought it was oh baby, but apparently it was obey me, which would make a bit of sense, I guess. So I don't know. I don't know what it really is, but if you look up the lyrics on Google, some will say this and some will say this. It's just,
I've always gone with oh baby, but yeah, now that you say oh baby.
Yeah.
Either way, it's a fun song. It's a real song we can get behind.
Yeah. Speaking of fun songs,
yes,
it is coming to Christmas, obviously, and the carols are in full swing, which I love. Like December 1, they're on. But what is your favorite carol? What comes to mind when you think of carols?
It's tough, I was thinking about this because I'd like to teach my kids some carols. We're trying to sing some carols in worship this week. We've just started like singing some carols at home for them to learn. I always would have said Silent Night was my favorite carol. I just like it. I like the In Excelsis Deo, it's just fun to sing. But I think I looked it up last night actually to teach my children, because it brought back great memories as a kid. I used to always claim it as my favorite when we would do carols in the park with our church and that sort of thing. It's called Christmas in the Scrub. It was written in 1983 and it's an Australian carol. And it's like it names all the Australian animals. Christmas in the Scrub. Let me just Google it for a sec. to remind myself of the lyrics. I was teaching my kids last night, and they were enthralled because it's like animals. What kid doesn't like animals, you know? And okay, it's taking a little bit of license. We know Jesus wasn't born in Australia. He wasn't also born on December 25, but just bringing in the Australian, the bush nature of the carols. You think of the concept of all creation bowing to worship the king, you know? And so it's like for the birth of God, the wallabies hop. For the birth of God, the cockatoos squawk. For the birth of God, the platypus swims. For the birth of God, the kookaburra laughs. For the birth of God was such exciting news they'd never heard before. They came from all the land to see this baby in the straw. It's just that idea of like, even though we're far removed potentially from the context and situation that Jesus was born into, we're still part of that story. We're still part of that Christmas story. It universalizes it. It Australianizes it. It's a nice one for an Australian Christmas, because so much of our stuff talks about cold nights and snow, and Christmas carols are all like that sort of cold European winter. Whereas this one, it's the sun, it's the summer, it's the animals, it's the creatures of Australia coming to worship the king, and we can do the same thing even though we're far removed from his context. So that was always a favorite of mine growing up. It's a lot of fun. Yeah,
I love that. I've written down all these songs, so I'm gonna go listen to them.
Yeah, great. Tell us yours, Zanita.
Oof. I'm a bit torn. Either I was gonna say Joy to the World or Oh Holy Night. Oh Holy Night. Maybe Oh Holy Night is a bit more like interesting, because the other one is just an exciting one that we sing at the end of every carols. But Oh Holy Night, like, some people know it because Mariah Carey sings it all the time. South Park has sung it. Celine Dion, like, everyone has sung this song kind of thing. But it's actually like a really interesting story behind it. Like, it was written by a guy from France who wasn't really known to be like a good godly guy. And he eventually, like, after writing this song, turned away from the faith, and the church banned it from being a song because of like his reputation. But despite it being banned, it still spread around, I think it was France, during like the Civil War, and it just became like something that the people would sing. And there's actually like a story where during the Franco-Prussian War, there was a soldier, like, during fighting, and I think it was like around the period of Christmas, one of the soldiers, he stopped fighting. There was like a lull in, I guess, the action. He stopped fighting and he just started singing this song, like, with everything he had. And then some of the soldiers on the other side also started singing, because it was like just going around that time, so they all knew it. So you had like these two opposing, I guess, like countries fighting with each other, and now all of a sudden it's like they're singing this like worship song together, which is kind of crazy. But I guess the song, it's also interesting because the song talks about like that Jesus came to redeem like a lost world, and it says in the lyrics, truly he taught us to love one another. His law is good and his gospel is peace. And then it says, long lay the world in sin and error pining till he appeared and the soul felt its worth. So I guess it's like this, like, yeah, I don't know. It's just, I guess, knowing the story and like knowing the words, it's just quite insane. It's one of those things that you're like, that never happened. And like, I guess it's the fact that like music can really bring people together, and it can like remind us of things that we often forget. And it can be really like, I know that when I've listened to music in the past, like I've been singing a song without really thinking, and then I've said a line and I've been like, oh, whoa, like I'm really not living that, or I'm really not like living that out. So like, why am I singing it? It can just kind of be a reminder. And I feel like for these people to kind of stop in the middle of a war and sing with each other those words is, yeah, really awesome that music has the power to do that. Next time you hear it, you can think of that.
Yeah, I love that story, and I love the two songs that you've shared. They're also definitely on my top of the lists for me. So I'm glad you shared that. I do love the lyrics of Oh Holy Night as well. The weary world rejoices. Yeah, it's got such a depth of imagery. We've had a comment from David Oscar. There are so many songs, and it is difficult to choose one, because every song speaks to us in different ways, time and situation. For example, like the choruses of Trust and Obey and I Need Thee Every Hour, also good songs. Yeah, and I think there's something to be said for the concept of teaching your children these songs. I've just realized since becoming a parent, like I know so many songs that have just almost I've learned through osmosis, just singing them together, singing them in different scenarios, singing them with community, and they're just part of me now. And they come out at times when I need those songs. And so I want my children to have that same experience. So we're trying to teach them as many songs as we can, and they're enjoying that experience. Well, Zanita, we've fast run out of time. That was an interesting conversation. And if you're listening to this later, please add your favorite songs. We'd love to know what you're enjoying. You can do some love song shout outs. But no, it's been a fascinating conversation, and thanks for sharing some of those song titles. I think I might also go look up some of those things and have a listen as well. So if you're unfamiliar with any of those songs, that's your homework this week. Go look them up on YouTube or somewhere and have a listen. I think we've got one episode left after this, Zanita, and then it will be breaking for the Christmas and the holiday period. So until then, God bless, and we'll see you soon. We'll see you next week.
See everyone.